Welcome to the Johnny Jensen Show, where modern dads discover how to create the true riches, relationships and results they deserve. Get your High Value Man blueprint and join our community at highvaluemanproject.com. Let's go. Hello men, welcome to the Johnny Jensen Show. It's great to have you here. Today we're going to be looking at the Q4 planning with the action and goals workshop. It's the same format as what we do every quarter, but it just happens to be that this, what are we in here? October now, Q4, heading into the final part of the year. And so an absolutely vital time to really round off the year as powerfully as we possibly can. If you've not been to hear this show before, then welcome. My name is Johnny Jensen. I am the founder and head coach at High Value Man Project. We are a community of motivated, modern, over 40s men creating the life that we desire, not a life that we feel stuck in. And we do that through our 3XE formula for living and by sticking to the habits and routines of the FIRE code. And the FIRE code really does underpin the goal and action setting workshop. In fact, it's part of the process of mapping out and planning the actions and the habits and the goals of each 12-week cycle. I'm just actually going to check my mic. I've got a distinct feeling. Make sure we're on the right. There we are, on the right microphone. Excellent. Good. Always good to check. Probably better to check before you start recording, but nonetheless, here we are. So last night, thank you to all the men that participated in the live session. If that's something that you feel that you would like to be part of, then you need to come and get yourself involved in the High Value Man Project. The easiest way to do that is go to highvaluemanproject.com and get yourself signed up there, either as a booking a discovery call to find out how you could fit and benefit from the process, from the program, or simply to join our free community over on Facebook and to participate in all the chit chat that goes on there and get access to the free resources such as the U 2.0 program, which includes access to the FIRE tracker, some video training there to support you in that direction around relationships, around your own fitness and health. And of course, the other two aspects of the FIRE code, which is the impact, your money and energy, the E in FIRE, which is your amount of adventure, fun and peace that you've got in your life. But so before we waffle on, let's have a look at exactly what the goal and action section really was about last night when we did it, or even if you're going to go away and do this on your own right now, because I want this session to be of value to you. So you can indeed set your own set of goals and actions for the next 10 weeks, or in fact, whatever quarter it is that you're listening to this. Now, there's a distinct reason that I do this the way I do. And that's because I've been on loads of shit goals workshops. You sit there for hours, even days, going through, what are my goals? Okay, and why do you want that goal? Okay, and what's that going to give you? All right, okay, next goal. They'll go into detail. And before you know it, you've got 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 12 months goals, goals for next week, goal for the next 10 minutes. And this is possibly just part of the challenge of the way that my brain works, but I can't really picture myself or place myself that far into the future. So the goal becomes a little bit out of touch. It feels like, well, it might happen, it might not happen. How do I stay motivated and committed to that? And what I know, whether it's about myself or through all the men that I worked with in the, what is it now, 6+ years training inside of Hero Education, is that when you set yourself up over chunks of time. Now, clearly, you want to have a goal or destination in mind. Just recently, my relationship, my friendship, shall we say, with my ex-wife, with my children's mum, has transformed. Now, I won't go into the exact ins and outs and details of that, but it's been a commitment of mine that it ended up that way, or that it got to that place. I didn't always know how it was going to happen, but there was the long-term commit there out in front of me, and then there was the day-to-day actions that I needed to needed to operate by. And some of those actions had to evolve. Clearly, there was a time where I might not have been getting it quite right, but I'm pretty sure over the last 3, 4, maybe even 5 years that I have been getting it right. In fact, I have been getting it very right. And somewhere in amongst that, in amongst the ebb and flow, the ins and outs, but also the consistent ways of being and operating, so we've got to this place where we now get on very well. We talk regularly, and whilst we don't always agree on things, we're co-parenting successfully for our kids. And you could have that about any goal. You know, we talked a lot tonight about how do people get focused? You know, why do they suddenly get committed? And an obvious example around this is when someone gets a really bad bit of news. You know, they've smoked their whole life. They don't know how they're possibly going to give up drinking. They enjoy it. They do it with their friends. It's a habit. And then they get told they've got diabetes, or then they got told they've got lung cancer. And overnight, they transform their whole way of being around their health and lifestyle and their habits and who they hang out with, where they go. It's like, and now I've got a big enough reason to give up smoking. And now I've got a big enough reason to not eat all that junk food. Death will do that to you. But you don't need to get to that level in order to have your goals really make a difference and to stick for you. So what I'm going to do right now is now start to take you through the process that I've created inside the High Value Man project and around the Fire Code framework. So first and foremost, we've got the 4 areas of the Fire Code. Now, a bit like that line in, and I'm pretty sure it's when there's something about Mary, and he says about, I've got a much better idea. You know, he's talking about a business idea. He's like, you know, the 5-minute abs, 5-minute abs. He's like, yeah, I know 5-minute abs. He goes, well, I've come up with 4-minute abs. And he's like, it's going to take on the world. And it's the same with structuring a program or giving people to focus on. There are 4 aspects of the Fire Code. I used to have 5 underneath Team Super Dad, and when it was called the Power Code. Yeah, gone from power to fire. But shrinking it down so that we have key areas to focus on, key areas of our life, key areas that make sense. But also we do it in a succinct enough way that we're not getting confused or distracted. So the F in fire is about focus. It's about you, your mindset, your sleep, your diet, your fitness. Like when if you imagine yourself as a Formula One car or a high performance horse, vehicle, anything really that's operating at the top of its game, then everything it does will be looked after. It will be happening at the right time. It will be happening at the optimum level. And if you're trying to create the life that you desire for yourself, for the other people, in your business, in your community, then it should be obvious that you can't do that as well as you want to do it unless you're on top form. So why would any other goal come before your own well-being? It just doesn't make sense. And yet so often in life for men, we have it round the other way. Like, I'm too busy to work out. I'm too busy to take her on a date. I'm too busy to spend time with my kids. I've got to do all this other stuff. And if I get all that right, then everything else will fall into place. But you know, it doesn't happen like that. Something comes along. Life will kick you in the arse. I know for me, at the end of 4 years of struggle, of the miscarriages, of my wife's poor health, of our financial troubles, of other stuff, around those subjects, but personal to our family situation. I was like, if I can just keep everything going in the right direction, if I can just keep it all together. And then my brother sadly died from suicide, and it just didn't realize how little I had left to give, but it just wiped it all out in one go. Now, you might say, well, of course it did. That's a serious subject, right? And it is. But if my mental, physical and emotional well-being hadn't have been at such a low ebb, I probably could have I've been able to deal with it better. And it wasn't so much that I was overcome with upset about that. Clearly I was, burying your little brother is not an easy thing to do. But it was how I was after it. It was the numbness. It was the shock. It was the inability to handle anything because of all the stuff that had come before it. It was like I'd been carrying this heavy load and I was literally on my knees, and then someone else put another brick on top. So we start with focus. Then next up is impact. Your money and your business. You know, for men who are running a company, for men who are at the high end of their career, or even if you're listening to this and you're just an ordinary guy, you know, on the tools, working a trade, you know, you can still be very successful, right? But having control over your finances and having a sense of purpose and direction and ambition around your business and work is essential. Because sooner or later, if you're constantly stressing around money, then or you haven't got any money, or you're spending, I've seen this with very successful people I've worked with, they've got pots of cash, but they're spending it so quickly, it's driving them insane. Or often as well, what happens is everybody else is spending their money for them. It brings a lot of stress. Money shouldn't bring you stress. You should be at peace with your finances so that you can go out and get more, so that your creative side of your brain can discover opportunities and new ideas, so that the people you put around you will be inspired and motivated to come on that mission and journey with you. So impact. F, focus, having yourself tuned in and ready for action. And now your money, having your money working for you, your business working for you. And the third element of impact is community. Because when you've got this system behind you, when you've got resources, when you've got money, when you've got freedom of time, you're actually a lot freer to make a difference in your community, to your family, to your neighbours, to your kids' school, to the wider community, let alone maybe even the world. Next up is relationships. This is where all the value that you put into yourself can start to translate into your relationships with others. We call it the Diamond Alliance. So that's your wife, or your partner, your significant other, your children, your friends and family, and your mentors and network. Who you are to other people is who they'll be back to you. And that is about being able to take responsibility for yourself, focusing on what you can change rather than trying to fix other people. Being the kind of man that for others that you want them to be for yourself. Like creating the space for that to happen, creating the space for it to be reflected back on you. That's not just a given. It's something you have to work on. So having goals in those areas, having actions like we're going to talk about to put them into place is key. And the fourth and most important part is the amount of energy you have in your life. And we define that as fun, adventure, and peace. Because having that to look forward to at the end of the day or at the end of the month or the holiday that's coming up or the adventure or the going and seeing old friends, like when you've got plans to look forward to and memories to look back on, then you can weather really any day. Because you know at the end of this thing comes that. And that's what you're looking forward to. It gives you purpose. It gives you fulfillment. Definition of fulfillment is having a clear idea of where you're headed and knowing that you're actively pursuing it. Or a clear idea of where you want to get to and knowing that you're actively going there. That gives a man fulfillment. It gives a man purpose. So the Fire Code Goal and Action Tracker is about them putting a set of goals, of focus and of action around them. So in this second part, I'm going to go in through those steps to actually make this into a real practical process that you can follow. And we should be done, as we like to be in the Johnny Jensen Show podcast, around 20 minutes or so. And not another 20 minutes. We will finish in about 20 minutes. So first up, bold and essential goals. You need to have both of these. Your bold goal is a stretch. It's something slightly beyond your comfort zone. It's something that you're striving towards, something that will shift the dial for you. It's a somewhat seismic move forward. Then your essential goal is vital to, let's say, your existence. It's vital to keep the mission on the road. If we create a really simple example, in your business or in your income, having a bold goal of earning £20,000 a month, right, of earning £240,000 a year, that might be the goal that's going to be a big shift. It's going to bring big growth in the business. But an essential goal would be your running costs. So if your running costs were 10 grand a month, then okay, wow, you need 10 grand a month. That's your essential goal. But it won't move the dial if you're making that, or just tread water. So you see the difference. If you have too many bold goals, you'll always be feeling like you're never going to make it, which can be quite demotivating. If you don't have any bold goals, then you're never going to have that exponential growth beyond yourself. And you need that to keep evolving as a high value man. You need that to keep attracting the kind of interest and momentum and excitement to your life. So next up, and for me, the most important differentiator in the high value man process from other goal setting workshops, and that is around the commitment questions. It's anchoring your goals. So it's making it very real for yourself. If you think back to the, being given a diagnosis, a health diagnosis, and it's suddenly shifting your outlook on food and diet. These anchors are what have you stay committed. So measurable outcomes. You'll know from the SMART goals, an acronym, it needs to be measurable. It has to be measurable, otherwise it's not a SMART goal. Well, it has to be measurable so you know when you've reached it. How will you measure your success? What I should say as well is, again, a distinction around this high value man process is that as you go through these questions, people will say to me, well, how does that question apply to all the goals I put in the goals section? If you want to do this for each and every one of those goals, by all means do it. It will make it very, very clear for you about why each goal is important. But what I can also tell you is this whole process, this whole activity will suddenly become a very lengthy exercise. Remember, there are 4 sections. So what you really want to do is get clear on your goals and then look at a group, as in focus, improving yourself. What will those goals give you? Okay, so you may have more than one measurable outcome, and that's fine. Then you say, what are the benefits of achieving this goal? Being very specific about this, like what will change for me when I've achieved this? And what you want to do is keep digging, keep looking for more. We've become out of the habit, maybe you were never in the habit of exploring deeply into ourselves. The answers that we want, like the goosebump moments, come from looking deep into ourselves. It's when you start to see the opportunities and the benefits and the impact that are slightly beyond where you first looked. That's where you find your real drive and commitment towards your goals. So what will change? What will change when you achieve this? It's not just that you'll lose weight. It's that you'll be more attractive. It means that you'll be able to play for longer with your children. It means that you'll be able to go skiing with your teenage boys. It means that you'll be able to, you'll look better naked. It means that you'll be able to perform better in bed. It means that your relationship will improve. It means that you won't, it means that you'll die together in a loving relationship. It means that you'll be around to be the grandparent that your children's kids will love and cherish. Like, these are the benefits of achieving improvements in your health. So when you get tuned into that, that's when you realize, okay, and now I know what I'm up to. And equally, the impact of not achieving those goals. You've got to get tuned in to the pain that will come from not having something. My wife won't be attracted to me. I'll be less effective in work. I'll have less money. I won't be able to look after my dad when he's old. I won't be able to pay for my kid's mobile phone or buy them a car or pay for her wedding when she's whatever. I don't know how old I want my daughter to be when she gets married. Let's say mid to late 20s. You have to start to tune into like what will be the impact of not having that. If we can't afford to go away on holiday, like a weekend break or a holiday, just me and my girlfriend or your wife, what will be the impact of that? If that relationship starts to flounder or you don't get the quality time together and then it starts to flounder, you can suddenly see that your health is related to your work, work is related to your income is related to the sense of adventure and happiness you have in your life, and that could impact your relationship. Wow. So now that donut looks like you being divorced and lonely and skint. That It's getting tuned into the pain of not having something. Which all then leads into your why. This is the goal that's essential to you. It's what's driving you. Your why is normally something more than just the benefit to yourself. It's about the impact to the wider circle, to your family, to your friends, to the world. So have a look. If your goal is all about, if your why is all about you achieving your goal, and so just ask yourself, and why does that matter? And why does that matter? And who does that impact? And why does that matter? And that's when you start to find your why. You know you have your why when you get goosebumps about it. When you tell someone else your why, it enrolls them. It gets them excited about it. It's very hard for people to get excited about something that just benefits you. But when you're talking about how it impacts others, they can see themselves in that moment helping those people as well. Or they can see an example that applies to them. They can relate to it. Then getting into the practicalities, another essential distinction for the high value man way of doing this is, what are the skills and habits you need to adopt? Like, honestly, what do I need to do here? I need to start getting up earlier. I need to eat better. Maybe if I need to eat better, perhaps I need to cook better. Okay, that's good. Okay. Do I know how to run? Do I know how to work out? Okay, that's good. What about my sleep? Like, do I know much about sleep? Do I need to go and learn more about like how people sleep well? You can start to see what's missing, that if it was in place, you'd be able to achieve more in that area. Next up, people to involve. Dan Sullivan was one of the co-authors of a great book called Who, Not How. And it should be obvious. Who do I know that can help me do this? Is going to be a much quicker process than learning something from scratch yourself. And if you go and find someone who's an expert in that area, they're probably going to perform at a way higher level than you could ever do. You know, there's like the hare and the tortoise. Like, actually, if he keeps running at the same distance, the same speed, you're never going to catch him up. So who, not how. Who can support you in reaching these goals? And then where that leaves you with your clear picture of where you're headed, with your motivating why for having it, the skills and habits laid out, the people around you to support it, you can then put your actions in place. What are the actions that I need to identify that are going to help shift the dial on this? And I want you to be really practical. You know, people don't do this at a practical enough level. Like and I realize I'm being very basic and obvious here in this goal and the actions, but if the goal was some kind of, I want to run a half marathon, and the whys are about the length of life and the satisfaction and joy in your relationships, then the actions are going to be as practical as buy some trainers, find a running group or coach, enter the bloody thing, learn about nutrition and protein. Like, it becomes that practical. And then you say, well, how am I going to fit this into my life? And this is the final part of this whole training and that I'm doing for you today in this podcast episode, in this live, is to be able to look at your day-to-day, week-to-week schedule being organized. It's one of the measures in the High Value Man lifestyle tracker is, have you planned your week or reviewed your days? The number of times this week that you've done that. So it's a measure of 7. Is the Eisenhower matrix. You get clear on the actions that you've got to execute on that day or that week, and you start to prioritize them. You prioritize them into these 4 areas. Number 1, important and urgent. So something that's important and urgent could be, I'll give an example of a sales meeting, right? Or a job interview. It's important because it's happening. It's important because it's going to impact the success you have in your life, right? You can't evolve and move the dial if you don't go and do this important thing. And then it's urgent because it's time sensitive. It's happening now. If you don't do it now, you're going to miss the opportunity. So that's important and urgent. Next up is important, not urgent. Now, important, not urgent is actually the most important box, because that's where you're creating and strategizing. That's where you're planning into the future. It's important, like it's going to move the dial. It's going to give you the life that you deserve, but it doesn't happen right this moment. You've got some time to think it through and put it into place. Next up, on the lower half of the matrix, is the more day-to-day activities. these are the activities that you perhaps want to delegate or put to one side, or get really organized about making them as effective and efficient as possible. So the first up is urgent, not important. Now, an urgent, not important could be something like the school run. Now, you could say, well, of course my kids are important. It's not about whether they're important or not. It's like, it's happening right now, but you getting them to school isn't necessarily going to shift the dial on your life. Could you delegate that? Could you lift share so you don't have to do it 5 days a week? Could they get the bus? Like, what could you do around that process to make it more efficient and buy you some time? And then the fourth and final matrix is, square on the matrix is not important, not urgent. This is time where you are literally wasting away. Do you even need to do it? And important to realize that there's stuff that might fall into this box, which you still may choose to want to do. Sitting and watching a game of football could be deemed as not important and not urgent. But it's time that you give to yourself. Because if you're busy, hustle, do all the time and not making time for yourself, then you'll burn out. So having some space for not important and not urgent tasks is actually important. It's time you're giving yourself. You're rewarding yourself. For all the rest of your hard work, that's the time where you get to give yourself back some peace, some satisfaction. That's the Eisenhower Matrix. So that's the process we go through inside of the High Value Man on a week-to-week basis, either in the Inner Circle group or through the one-on-one elite training. And it's what we do on the quarterly planning sessions. I hope this has been of use to you. If you visit the highvaluemanproject.com/group, it will give you access into the free program we offer up called U 2.0. Inside of there is access to the FireCode tracker and the spreadsheet that we were talking about today, as well as some other essential top-level training around being a high-value man. And the rest of it, well, I'd love to have you on board. The next group is starting, if you're listening to this live, the next group is starting in just a couple of weeks at the end of October. And 3 times a year, we open up that group for new participants. And at the current rate, we top that group off at 30 people per intake, 30 men per intake. If you've got any questions, then by all means, drop them in the comments. Please be sure to like and share and leave a comment or review around this wherever you're watching or listening to it. The more you subscribe, the more you do that, the further the algorithm will pump this out into the world. I know how much of a small percentage of people who watch the video on YouTube are actually subscribed to the channel. So click the bell, subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference, as well as sharing this and leaving a comment on either Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. I love that you're here. I love how much we're growing this High Value Man project, how we're supporting, over 40s men, dads, creating the life that we desire and not a life that we feel stuck in. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Let's go. Thanks for tuning in to the Johnny Jensen Show. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow dads. Creating the life you deserve starts with you. Get your High Value Man blueprint and join our community of motivated modern dads at highvaluemanproject.com. Let's go.